This is not Apocalypse Now. This is Silverstone.
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 Silverstone, the home of British motor racing.
For over 40 years, Silverstone has been the home of Formula One's British Grand Prix. A festival filled with national bravado, crowds roaring in excitement at the sight of racing's absolute finest. This was, and still is, one of the highlights on the calendar, piss-poor weather conditions notwithstanding. So what if I told you that despite all the hoopla, hype, and drama we experience every summer, this isn't the best race at Silverstone? For starters, it's not as though the British GP is a sole light in a beacon of motorsport darkness around Northamptonshire. MotoGP, ELMS, BTCC, you name it. Wait, what's that name right there? Walter Hayes. Who the fuck? This bespectacled chap from Shepperton was one of the most influential figures in 20th century motorsport. Starting out as a journalist, Hayes quickly turned to the world of public relations, steering said ship at Ford Britain throughout the 1960s. His contributions include convincing the company that financial assistance for the Cosworth DFV would make for a solid investment. It turns out the Cosworth DFV was to become the premier Grand Prix engine of the 1960s. And 70s, and early 80s. Furthermore, Mr. Hayes made waves through launching Ford Europe or kickstarting US-based projects such as Ford's involvement in IMSA GTP, or securing Ken Terrell some company backing to pay Jackie Stewart's salary. That's just the tip of the iceberg, mind you, and unsurprisingly, Hayes had climbed the corporate ladder at the Ford Motor Company rather well, serving as vice chairman for Ford UK until 1989. With his passing on December 26, 2000, the racing world had lost one of its most powerful figures, especially with regards to the history of Ford. In 2001, the so-called Walter Hayes Trophy was created in his honor, but what is the Walter Hayes Trophy specifically? Well, for lack of a better word, it's Silverstone's very own Formula Ford extravaganza. Competitors from all around the globe meet up every November to compete in a set of heats, semifinals, and the grand finale to crown the champion. As has been tradition, the Walter Hayes and the Formula Ford Festival were scheduled back-to-back. This means that the two biggest Formula Ford events of the season happen within the span of 10 days or so, with practice and all. While some of you might be familiar with the concept, it's not as though the Walter Hayes is raking in primetime television audiences a la Formula One, or even viewership comparable to endurance racing and the BTCC. If anything, it lurks in the shadow of those events, providing classic after classic, year in, year out, with 2025 being no exception. We could spend hours talking about all the chaps and gills who travel to Silverstone for proceedings, as Ida Wood created a lovely spotter guide over at Formula Scout. However, for the sake of saving time, let's focus on what I deem to be the standout stories of the bunch before the weekend. We could talk about the reigning Walter Hayes Trophy champion, Rory Smith, racing with a fitting number 1 on his car, ready to go for back-to-back wins. He had to miss some pre-event testing due to his work as an accountant. Other former champions include teammate Jordan Dempsey, Niall Murray, or multi-time champion Joey Foster. He managed to win 4 of these over the years, but his Formula Ford Festival 2025 left a lot to be desired.
Joey Foster locks up and runs even wider. Oh, there's contact! Foster is involved, and immediately some of the favourites for the festival could be out on the spot.
When it comes to less experienced individuals, one must mention Mr. Brandon Lee. Fans fans of the Formula One games might know him as the inaugural F1 esports champion. His career in virtual Formula One racing is over, though last year's Walter Hayes was to be his return to the real world of racing. Andrew Rackstraw is definitely a star to watch. He is the reigning Porsche Carrera Cup GB champion, having finished the 2024 edition of the Walter Hayes in second. Quite a step from chunky GT wagons into one of these missiles. We should definitely throw Jason Smith into the equation as well. He managed to win the previous week's Formula Ford Festival at Brands Hatch, a feat his father had achieved 14 years earlier.
Absolutely flawless performance from pole position. He led off the line, he dealt with 2 safety car restarts, he dominated the field, and Jason Smythe is your 2025 Grand Final winner at the Brands Hatch Formula Ford Festival.
So, if things go well for him and his team, he could clinch a memorable double. Unsurprisingly, the 2025 United Formula 4 champion is touted as one of the favorites. Or we could talk about P2 in that same national championship.
I love this moment. You kind of come to the track, everyone thinks you're doing some sort of expert analysis. I'm doing all right now. Oh, my name's Tom Nippers. I'm now, unfortunately, getting old. I'm 23 years old. I've just turned 23, which is, that's actually hurt my feelings to say. I'm from South Wales in Newport. Really random way of getting into racing for me. Basically, my dad, he used to race, but he was never one of the, basically always did it himself. He was my age when he started. He was 23 years old, got himself a kart or whatever, and he went racing himself. My dad basically is just an absolute enthusiast for mechanical and engineering, essentially. His hobby, he would try and build the car and then go racing with it. That's what he would go and do. And then he did that. He managed to get himself all the way to Formula Renault by doing that, which was, it was an insane story then that went massively under the radar. And then he got to a certain age or whatever. He got to, I don't know what he was in his 40s, and he went back, he tried to do a kart race, and he was a bit old. He realised, right, I've not got it anymore. I'm not quite fit enough. And it was literally that day, he just asked me, he went, do you want to have a go? And I went, yeah, I want to have a go. Yeah, go on then. And then next thing you know, he basically continued doing what he loved, which was building the car, whatever. And that's what he's always done or whatever. We've always been privateers. We've always been dad and lad or whatever.
Nowadays, Mr. Nippers is known for his internet exploits.
Like an absolute cock, I was throwing in dive bombs like there was no tomorrow. This guy's literally driven off the track to avoid me, and that was the smartest decision at the time.
So as you can see, me and Matt have wandered to the red light district. We're not...
Oh, fuck, the car's on fire.
As such, whenever you happen to roam a Formula Ford stream, chances are there'll be a couple of chaps cheering on their Welsh wonder boy. That includes both the Formula Ford Festival and the Walter Hayes Trophy, of course.
I'd put those two races, in terms of nowadays, I'd put them on a par to each other. I'd say, as much as the Formula Ford Festival's history is huge, and it is huge, in my opinion, it's still the one I'd rather win out of the two, just because it's, it's your name on the board in the pub in the Kentigan at Brands Hatch and stuff. It's all that sort of prestigious stuff that makes it just that little bit better, I'd say. But in terms of numbers and stuff, like this year, I think it was the 25th anniversary this year of the Walter Hayes, so there was a few more, that added a few more entries. I think this year there was 85 cars at the Brands Hatch Formula Ford Festival, and then at Silverstone for the Walter Hayes there was 105. The numbers they're getting at these races in terms of entries is absolutely insane. In terms of comparing to each other, it's weird because Brands Hatch is... They couldn't be more different in terms of tracks. In terms of Brands Hatch is a very, very tight, twisty, short lap. Not many straights, and even the straight's not straight. It's a funny place in general in terms of the elevation and stuff. But then you've got Silverstone, which is the complete opposite, where it's 3, if we're being honest, relatively simple corners, or, sections of corners, I should say. And then 3 insanely long straights where you can, the slipstream round Silverstone, particularly in the dry, it's impossible to get away. The man in the lead at the Walter Hayes very, very rarely gets away. It's a very funny difference because you literally saw it. Brands Hatch, the leader, was able to get away and they couldn't, no one could quite keep up or whatever. But at Silverstone, it was the complete opposite, where it was literally 10 or 11 cars going for the win the entire time. But in terms of like a prestigious feeling, like which one's better, it's genuinely almost impossible to answer. They're both very, like, they're both, put it this way, I'd be in tears if I won either one.
Obviously, we can't have 105 cars running all at the same time, as the maximum allowed out on track is 36. As such, the Walter Hayes Trophy is split into a progression system. On Saturday morning, drivers are drawn into one of 4 heats, for which there is a dedicated qualifying session. The first 13 finishers automatically qualify for a semi-final, with P14 to P18 being chucked into the so-called last chance race. P19 and lower are thrown into the so-called progression race, a last chance, if you will, to get into the last chance race. Therefore, making it to the grand finale shouldn't be too difficult for our main contenders. Then again, the better you finish your heat, the better your starting position for the semi-final, and the better you finish that race, the better your shot at actually winning the big one.
Go out to qualify. We were first out in the morning, and I just drove shit. I'm not gonna lie with you. I just had a really bad session. I didn't. It was a drying session. It was very difficult to see which parts were drying, like in terms of the track. I didn't know which line to take. And then obviously as the track's evolving so quickly, it's like that last lap is the only lap that's going to count. And I think I was pole until the last lap. And on my last lap, I just completely messed it up. And then on top of that, they took my 2 best laps off me for track limits, which meant that I was down to, I think I had to start 5th. I think I had to start 5th in my first heat. I won't lie with you, the car was feeling amazing, and as the race started, I thought, right, as long as I keep everything together, I should win this heat. And I think it was lap 3 or 4, I was going for the lead, and then my NASO panel decided to take flight, and we did a bit of a bodywork change mid-race, which never worked. It didn't go particularly well, put it that way, and I had to. It was actually really funny because I'm missing my bonnet basically, and the amount of air coming into that car, I was absolutely fucking freezing. I have never been that cold in my entire life. And also it was like having the brake on going down the straight because how much air was coming into the car. Because of that, essentially, I then drove like a for 2 laps because I was just panicking. I didn't know what to do. My front nose cone was literally facing the wrong way. And I was like, are they going to call me in? Am I going to get black flagged?
Our boy was lucky not to be disqualified or called into the pits with such creative aerodynamic fortitude. His top spot was taken by Jacob Tofts, with Heat 2 going to Andrew Rackstraw, Heat 3 going to Niall Murray, and Heat 4 to Jordan Kelly. To sort out the semi-finals, the winner of the fastest heat gets pole position for semi-final 1, with the winner of the second fastest race taking pole for semi-final 2. Heat winner number 3 gets lined up with semi-final pole sitter 1, and so on. Possibly confusing, though it does give intrigue to which one of the 4 heats turns out to be the fastest. And if you still can't get with it, you might as well just absorb all the beautiful sights and sounds of these machines on a breezy autumn's day. Sunday morning starts off with the progression race, an opportunity for supposed no-hopers or unlucky motorists to turn around their fortune. Now, I don't know whether this was intentional on behalf of Alpha Live, the company broadcasting this event, but there's this lovely shot on Sunday morning. No commentary, just the buzz of a paddock waiting to roar, walking through the grid of the progression race. It's not drama-filled, it's not particularly tense, yet it's a lovely sight that leans into the backbone of this event. The aforementioned Formula Fords. This form of racing, next to no aero, grooved tires, tuned road car type engines, small teams consisting of moms and dads and siblings and such. A relatively small operation per crew, creating a unique atmosphere with an intense focus on the driver's ability to shine, no driver aids and spoilers at hand to hide flaws in one's technique.
It's a funny thing in Formula Ford because, for one, the driver makes a massive difference. And I'm not saying it doesn't in other categories, of course it does. But if you can't drive, it's very evident in Formula Ford because it's so much about confidence and so much about car control and stuff. And as much as there are teams out there, like Team Dolan, for example, who've been doing it for decades now. But in terms of like the money, it's not cheap. There's nothing cheap about racing in general. Even the way we do it, we can, we do it at probably half the price of the next guy ahead of us or whatever. It's still not exactly free. And you look at it from a monetary point of view. The way I would describe Formula Ford is probably it's the best value for money racing I've ever seen. The level of racing you get, the level of people you're racing against for the money, I think is very, very good.
Once the preliminary stages were out of the way, it was time for the semifinals to commence.
The semi-final then, I had to start, I think I was 8th place, I had to start, but again, this time I did really get quite unlucky, which was, I had to start on the wet, it was a drying circuit, and because I was starting in 8th, I had to start on the wet side of the track. You know, there was a dry side and the wet side, and I was on basically the very furthest over and had to start in on a complete wet bit of tarmac. I ended up dropping straight back to P10 because I literally wheel spun. Obviously, I was wheel spinning off the start when everyone else just pulled off. And then I managed to claw that back from 10th to 3rd in that semi-final when the car was all working again, and that was probably the highlight of the weekend, that, to be fair.
3 wide, and Rackstraw drops to 3rd. The Smiths go past him on either side, and both go wide, and Rackstraw back through into the race lead. They're 3 abreast for 2nd place, and there's contact. Rory Smith has gone, Amato has gone. That was 3 into 1 that did not work. And they're almost touching wheels, those two, Tofts and Nippers, as they come down through Brooklands up towards Luffield. Then it's the red car of Tofts just ahead. But on the outside and up the inside goes Tom Nippers, and he's going to go through.
Andrew Rackstraw took his 2nd win of the weekend, followed by Jason Smith in P2. Funnily enough, both had already fought in heat number 2 with the exact same result, to the dismay of Mr. Smith. And his day was to go from bad to worse. Remember this collision? Well, the stewards deemed Jason to be responsible for the incident, handing him a 10-place grip penalty for the grand finale in turn. At least, this meant another place gain for our social media guru. And let's just say it could have been much worse. Just look at Joey Foster.
It is Rory Smith and a spin in the middle of the pack, and Joey Foster gets collected and he's turned around. So Joey Foster has spun, but I think he's got damaged suspension as well.
Bad fortune all around this week. Sorry, Joey. What about semi-final 2 then?
There's drama, I think, over at Luffield that's taken Alex Walker out of the competition. I'm afraid he's got broken suspension.
And a spinner all on his own in the middle of the pack there was Thomas McCarthy. No, it wasn't. It was Ian Campbell, sorry.
As the leader comes out of Brooklands, and a bit of a twitch from Jordan Kelly's cars. He skims the curb, and there's contact then between Kelly and was that possibly MacArthur? And we might have an interruption here because we've got a parked car. Neil Tofts 117 has stopped on the outside of Luffield. Drama as off the road goes east, well, and I think it's Tom MacArthur that's got caught up with him. This is on the exit of Luffield.
Once more, Niall Murray romped to victory, securing himself a front row start for the main event. Tommy of the Nippers was to start from row 2, with Brandon Lee starting in P19. Defending champion Rory Smith was going to go from P27 after his shunt, with Jason Smith starting in P13. Or was he? Rumors were starting to swirl that Smith Sr. wanted to leave early and not do the final. There was no point in this mess anymore after all. Like, how is he gonna win from back there? No, Dad, I'll win it from P13, Jason told his father.
Walter Hayes Trophy has been delivering action, and the next chapter in the story is about to be written. The green flag shown at the back then, the grid is complete, there are 15 laps ahead of us, the 25th final is underway. And Jason Smith is in 7th, and what about Rory Smith in number 1? He's 21st. But Niall Murray is not getting away, is he? He might have been really good on those restarts in the semi-final, but right now he cannot shake off. And diving up the inside is Tom Nippers to go 2nd. He was 4th coming into the braking area. He's 2nd and a bit because he's on the outside line. Andrew Rackstraw on the in. To the outside line he comes there. This is Jason Smith bid for the lead on the outside. Niall Murray's trying to go around the outside of him yet again, and it doesn't work. Jason Smith with a car that seems to grow in width lap after lap. Murray round the outside, back into the lead. Niall Murray gets the lead and he gets sideways. That scrubs off momentum. Jason Smith on the outside is back ahead at Luffield.
In the final, to be completely honest with you, when I watched it back, I watched my onboard back, I just think I didn't quite take enough risks. I think I had an opportunity at one point, for example, where I was kind of down the inside and I maybe could have taken second place, but I just wasn't quite aggressive enough. And if I'd been in second, I would have been in, I was only one place away from the lead. I look at it now and I was like, if I could do it again, I'd get my elbows out a lot more and I'd try and pull off a few more risky moves. But in terms of our pace in general, I just don't quite think we had enough to win it. But at the same time, I think I could have done more as well. I was running in 5th place, I think, and on the last lap, I just got completely taken out, it is what it is. For me personally, it's like the second it happened, I was angry for about 20 seconds, and then it's like, look, it's done. I can't turn back time. There's, particularly on a one-off event like that, where there's no points at play, it's just a case of win the race or don't. It's not that I didn't care, but it was like, I'm not angry. It's like, that's the end of it for me. It's, I gave it a go. I ended up, 5th place or DNF. Again, as privateers, as people we're just doing it. It's my dad's building the engines and stuff. We these people are spending thousands and thousands and thousands to be at the front. And the fact that we're there with them is like an insane achievement that we're all incredibly proud of. And we gave it a really good go. And that was at the end of the day, it was an amazing race, and we were right there until the end.
I can't see Jason being beaten at this stage.
But Dempsey's going to have a go on the inside, and they bang wheels. And it is going to be Smith that leads, with Rackstraw up the inside line for second place. He's done enough. The checkered flag at the ready. A fantastic final, won by Jason Smith from 13th on the grid.
You don't have to agree with my assessment of preferring this to, say, the British Grand Prix. The Water Haze doesn't hold such glitz and glamour. It's raw, unfiltered, built by passionate folks at the grassroots of modern monoposto motorsport. Every single one of the 105 competitors has got a story to tell. Just like Joey Foster, just like Tom Nippers, just like Jason Smith. Combined with elegant chassis drifting through the last sunset breath of Britain's auto racing season, this event deserves more attention for its stories to be told and retold, its action to be cherished. No Netflix needed.